Welcome to our Practical Research 2 class. This week's topic is on the theoretical and conceptual framework and definition of terms. Our learning targets for this week are the following. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to differentiate theoretical from conceptual framework, identify the terminologies that should be defined in our research papers, or in your research papers rather, and write the conceptual and operational definition of the important terms used in your study. Now let's define first framework. What is a framework? A framework is similar to a skeleton. It is the basic structure or frame or reference which is designed to support or enclose something. That's a definition by Merriam and Webster. As a skeleton, it gives shape, form, and strength to the body, so it can stand erect. So do the different concepts and theories. These concepts and theories serve as the building blocks, or the skeleton, for the foundation or the basis of the study. Now, what is a theoretical framework? A theoretical framework, which may be formulated from an existing theory or theories, serves as the foundation of the study. In such case, the paradigm that is originally used by the theorist can be fully adopted in the present study. It can also be adapted since the researcher can add or subtract variables from the original framework, provided that the whole theory is utilized. The theoretical framework is where you present and explain the theories that support your research, showing that your work is grounded in established ideas. In designing your theoretical framework, you have to consider the following. First, understand the variables included in your study as well as their relationship with one another. So you would need to clearly define these variables or concepts. Second, review the existing literature to your research topic. Third, using the information that you have gathered from the literature, look for possible theories that may potentially account for the expected result of your research topic. So in this case, you would really have to compare and critically evaluate the approaches the different authors have proposed. So from these theories, going to the fourth, select the one that is most relevant to your study and can provide a blueprint to your research. In a more complex study, you may combine two or more theories to create your own unique one. Here is an example of a theoretical framework. So in this particular example, the researcher sees a phenomena. So the phenomena here, or the variable actually of the study, is the management of internal control system of millionaire multipurpose cooperatives operating in Region 1. Now, in this particular example, the author incorporated 5 theories that he thinks relevant in his study. Remember, a theoretical framework is a summary of the researcher's theory regarding a particular problem that is developed through a review of previously tested knowledge about the variables involved. It also identifies a plan for investigation and interpretation of findings. There are no fixed rules in structuring a theoretical framework. The important thing is to create a clear and logical structure. If theoretical framework is concerned with the presentation of the larger assumptions through established theories and concepts surrounding the variables, what is a conceptual framework? A conceptual framework is a graphical presentation or representation of your concepts or ideas on the basic structure or components of your research, as well as on the other relationships of these elements with one another. In developing your conceptual framework, you have to consider the following. First, identify the key concepts in your study by referring to your research questions or objectives. Second, search for existing theories that incorporate the same concepts and look into their relationships with one another. Next, using the existing theories as guide, plot your conceptual framework using a concept map. Next, after completing the initial draft of your conceptual framework, write a narrative explanation of each concept and how each of them relates with one another. Lastly, refer once again to your research question. Check if the conceptual framework is aligned with them. Simply put, your conceptual framework is a graphical representation of your SOP. Now let's take a look at an example of a conceptual framework. This figure illustrates the conceptual framework of our sample topic, which is senior high school students, social media usage, and their attention span in class. The paradigm presents the variables that will be considered in the study. The level of senior high school students' social media usage will be described using the three sub-variables: A. Forms of social media, B. Frequency of social media use, C. Mode of social media use. In this research, the first variable is seen to have a relationship with senior high school students' attention span in class. This hypothesized relationship is represented by the two-headed arrow, connecting both variables. Remember, your conceptual framework must show the organization, the order, and the direction of your research study. So, what is the difference between theoretical and conceptual framework? Theoretical framework in a study is based on the existing theory or theories you built your concepts upon. The conceptual framework, on the other hand, is something you can develop yourself based on the theories and concepts surrounding it. In your conceptual framework, you can add your own concepts and constructs and variables that you think are relevant, and then proceed to explore or test the relationship between them. Let's move forward to the next subtopic of our lesson, the definition of terms. What do you think are the meaning of these words? Epiphany, bibliophile, oblivion, petrichor, and hierais. Are they familiar to you? Apparently, if you're not familiar with these words, the first thing that you would do is to find their meanings on the dictionary. When you are introduced with new terms, you tend to look for their definitions to understand the overall context of the statement. A standard and common section in research paper, usually found in the first chapter, is the definition of terms. Defining important terms is essential to ensure a common understanding of key concepts and terminology is shared between the researchers and his or her audience, particularly if the term is unusual or not widely known. However, this important element of the proposal often receives little attention. Now, what is a definition of terms, or what is the definition of terms? It is an alphabetical list of important terms or acronyms that you define, particularly ambiguous terms or those used in a special way. It also facilitates understanding of the study by defining the terms or variables according to their contextual use. In general, important terms only need to be defined in two cases. First, when the term is not widely known or understood, and B, when the term has specific or unique meaning in the context of the study. And it is essential that the reader of the dissertation understand this specific meaning. In some cases, a thesis would only define the terms operationally, but our format requires both conceptual and operational definition. Now, what is a conceptual definition? A conceptual definition, it refers to the universal meaning that is attributed to a word or group of words, and which is understood by many people. The usual source of conceptual definition is the dictionary, which is the reference book of everyday language. Now let's take a look at an example of a conceptual definition of internet troll. Webster defined it as a person who intentionally antagonizes others online by posting inflammatory, irrelevant, or offensive comments or other disruptive content. Now, what is an operational definition? It is the meaning of the concept or term as used in the particular study or in a particular study. Unlike the conceptual definition, it is stated in concrete term that it allows measurement. The usual practice when using both types of definition is to state first the conceptual, followed by the operational. Now let's see an example. Still, we are using the conceptual definition of internet troll, followed by the operational definition. Internet troll refers to a person who intentionally antagonizes others online by posting inflammatory, irrelevant, or offensive comments or other disruptive content, by Webster 2001. It will serve as the predictor value variable in the study. As cyberbullies, their effect to the respondents who were victims of cyberbullying will be observed and measured. Always remember that in defining the terms in your study, how you define such term could considerably affect how the reader understands your thesis. Thus, you must make sure that you have used these terms in a consistent fashion throughout your proposal thesis. This concludes our lesson on theoretical and conceptual framework and definition of terms. Thank you for listening.